Things I love most about the United States is that we are a nation and a nationality continually in the process of being formed. We come from all over the world. Each group that arrives here adds something unique to our cultural diversity and richness. It has been said we make a glorious mosaic. I'm Geraldine Ferraro. Sometimes I wonder what makes the pieces of our mosaic work together and add up to the larger picture. What cement keeps each gem-like piece part of the whole? For despite serious tensions between groups, our society works pretty well, and that's not by accident. One direction to look in for an answer is our legal system. In every period, the legal system of a country gives us insight into its people. Despite the often difficult language in which laws are written, a body of law speaks eloquently about a society's aspirations. In the United States, for example, we believe that all people are created equal. Our laws reflect this belief. We also believe, unlike many societies in today's world, that we have the right to privacy in our own homes. I invite you to look back with me to discover where some of these guiding principles of the law came from. As an Italian-American, I find this journey especially gratifying since it takes me back some 2,000 years to the time of the Romans, my Italian ancestors. Today, the city of Rome is one of the world's vibrant capitals. "2,000 years ago, it was the center of an empire that covered an area about the size of the continental United States and had some 50 million people. Territory that once formed a single empire is now 26 separate nations. The symbol of Rome was the eagle, a bird that is found in all parts of the world. Was it a coincidence that our founding fathers adopted as our national symbol the same proud bird the Romans used? Not at all. The founders of the United States were thoroughly versed in Roman history. Although aware of the Roman vices, they admired Roman virtues and sought to inculcate them in the new order they dreamed of for the New World. The historian Charles Mullett put it this way: classical authors are to be counted among the founding fathers. Not less than the Washingtons and the Lees, the ancient heroes helped to found the independent American Commonwealth. The vision of the ancient heroes extended down through the centuries to have a direct impact on revolutionaries in 18th century France and America. Yet these Romans were not visionaries, but very practical people. Just as they constructed roads and buildings for the ages, they developed legal and political structures that, though changed in form, could be transported through the centuries. Like the United States, Italy and the Roman Empire were culturally diverse societies whose leaders sought an underlying unity that would allow people of very different backgrounds to live together in harmony in history's first melting pot. It is scholar Maya Reinhold who has opened our eyes to the surprising extent of Roman influence on our country in its formative years.
America was the land that took the classics seriously. One of the classics that was well known to 18th century Americans was Plutarch's Lives. This is a collection of fascinating biographies told so superbly that it's among the most read books of all times. Romulus, founder of Rome, Julius Caesar, Mark Antony, Cato, and Cicero were among the Romans whose stories he told. Ben Franklin tells us in his autobiography that Plutarch was his favorite reading. John Adams, second president of the United States, favored reading Cicero.
I have read him for almost 70 years and seem to have him almost by heart. Cicero had the most capacity and the most constant as well as the wisest and most persevering attachment to the Republic.
What Franklin, President Adams, and their peers admired so much was the Romans' concept of civic rights and duties, and the existence of a body of law governing one person's conduct to another. For this is what allowed many people to live together in harmony.
To Cicero and other thoughtful Romans, the highest good was to live according to nature. A single system of laws governed the entire universe, and all natural things had an obligation to conform to those laws. So Cicero called this system natural law. In our Declaration of Independence, it's called the laws of nature.
True law is right reason in agreement with nature. It is of universal application, unchanging, everlasting. It summons to duty by its commands and averts from wrongdoing by its prohibitions.
In other words, law and justice do not depend on the whim of a lawgiver. Might does not make right. Civil law must harmonize with the law of nature, which all people are able to discern. As Rome came to unite all of Italy and then the entire Mediterranean world, the importance she placed on the law increased. For many peoples, each with their own customs and language, an empire was being forged. Justice and unity in law were seen as essential to administer the vast territories and to attain the prosperity that comes from peace. As Roman law absorbed elements from conquered peoples, so it later contributed to systems of national law throughout Europe. Roman law's influence on history can hardly be overstated. The legal scholar William Seal Carpenter wrote, "There has never been a time since the Middle Ages when Roman law has failed to influence the development of law in England as well as on the continent." The treasured backbone of our own criminal code, that a person is innocent until proven guilty, is derived from Roman legal thinking. Our Fourth Amendment right to privacy in our homes is traced to the notion of home as sanctuary. Another example is that in our own law, only the state can create a corporation, a principle that comes directly from Roman law. The words that underpin our daily lives as social beings, city, citizen, citizenship, civic, spring from Roman concepts developed over the centuries as Rome became a great empire. Our modern Western notion of citizenship, in which the place a person selects as a permanent residence determines that person's citizenship, stems from Roman law. For the Greeks, citizenship was determined by a person's place of birth. The Romans, on the other hand, came to see citizenship as a set of rights and duties, not simply as an accident of birth. Cicero saw citizenship and liberty as tied together.
We have inherited the same tradition in regard to both. And if once it is possible to take away citizenship, it is impossible to preserve liberty.
Characteristically, he insisted that if citizenship could be taken away from any newly created citizen, it could just as easily be taken away from those whose families had been Roman citizens for generations.
During the course of Roman history, citizenship, that highly desirable status open only to the exclusive few, became more and more broadly extended, embracing more and more of the empire's population. Lucius Julius Caesar first extended citizenship to most freeborn residents of Italy. Not long after, Julius Caesar conferred citizenship on non-Italian natives of northern Italy, an act without precedent in the ancient world. As a result, people of a variety of ethnic origins shared in the rights and responsibilities of a common citizenship. The trend to inclusion reached its culmination in 212 AD with the Edict of Caracalla, which declared that all freeborn men of the communities of the empire were Roman citizens.
I hereby declare on oath.
I see in the Edict of Caracalla a stunning parallel with our conception of United States citizenship as an honor open to all who are willing to accept the duties of citizenship. It shows the Roman Empire as a kind of leveling force that our nation has been in the modern world.
So help me God.
Rome's search for unity, first for Italy and then for empire, extended to law, citizenship, and government. Our own time and our own nation are vastly different from that time and place, and yet I am struck by the similarities. Unity and diversity is what the United States is about. Our founders knew this dream was possible by studying and learning from Roman history.
Rome's heritage has long outlasted her empire. The historian Will Durant summed it up this way: "It is easier to explain Rome's fall than to account for her long survival. This is the essential accomplishment of Rome, that having won the Mediterranean world, she adopted its culture, gave it order, prosperity, and peace for 200 years, held back the tide of barbarism for 2 centuries more, and transmitted the classical heritage to the West before she died. Rome has had no rival in the art of government. It formed a majestic system of law which through nearly all Europe gave security to life and property, incentive and continuity to industry. It molded a government of separated legislative and executive powers whose checks and balances inspired the makers of constitutions as late as revolutionary America and France. For a time, it united monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy so successfully as to win the applause of philosophers, historians, subjects, and enemies alike. It gave municipal institutions and, for a long time, municipal freedom to 500,000 cities.
I have my own favorite Will Durant quote. Our Roman heritage works in our lives 1,000 times a day. I take this as a very literal statement. Our Roman heritage is the basis for how we tell time, for one thing. The months of the year, Januarius, Julius, Augustus, come from Latin, the language of the Romans. So does the division of the day into AM, ante-meridian, and PM, post-meridian. The very word calendar, calens, comes from the Latin as well. I mentioned earlier that the Roman search for unity could be seen in the family. Familia, another Latin word. Although it's easy to think of Rome as a collection of white marble monuments, Rome was, of course, made up of people. Their spirit is the spirit of Roman law. And so in the end, we need to look at the Roman family to understand the legacy we've inherited from classical Italy. The ancient Italian family was an extended family that included slaves, ancestors, and household gods. It was centered in a place, the home. Scholars tell us that Romans can claim to have been the creators of the home. It was there that they acquired the cherished virtues of responsibility, respect for institutions, and simplicity. I turn once again to Cicero. In one of his memorable speeches, he expressed the Roman feeling for home. Cicero had been exiled and his home torn down. On his return to Rome, he pleaded for permission to rebuild.
Is there anything more hallowed? Is there anything more hedged about with sanctity than the home? of each individual citizen. For all of us, this is a sanctuary so holy that to tear a man away therefrom is an outrage to heaven.
The domus, or home, was a sanctuary for women and children as well as for men. Although at certain times in Roman and Italian history women were granted few rights, Rome's overall attitude toward women was significantly more advanced than that of other ancient powers. Roman women were in general greatly esteemed. Some were, like Cicero, lawyers. Some were doctors. A few were artists and competitive athletes. Her standing far exceeded that of the Athenian matron. The Roman historian Cornelius Nepos wrote, "Many things that among the Greeks are considered improper and unfitting are permitted by our customs." He then posed two questions that reveal his admiration for the Roman attitude toward women.
Is there by chance a Roman who is ashamed to take his wife to a dinner away from home? Does it happen that the mistress of the house in any family does not enter the anterooms frequented by strangers and show herself among them? Not so in Greece. There the woman accepts invitations only among families to which she is related, and she remains withdrawn in the inner part of the house, where only the nearest relatives are admitted.
Women played a prominent role in Roman history. Vivia Sabina is an example. Sabina was the niece of the Emperor Trajan. She married Trajan's successor, Hadrian. Sabina founded a body of women called the Little Senate, which, while it had no authority over matters of state, gave women governance over issues specific to them. The Romans were a people forged from many sources. They understood that by embracing people from other tribes and kingdoms, they could only strengthen their own identity. The deep bed of Roman influence endured across the centuries, affecting the shape of law and government, of citizenship and of family life in every nation the empire had once ruled, and even in places colonized by Europeans long after Rome's fall. As a result, all people born in the West, not just those of Italian descent, can legitimately claim a Roman heritage. And while it's true that many segments of Roman society, women among them, were denied political equality, the contributions of ancient Italy are no less valuable. The questions posed some 2 millennia ago are still asked today. How can diverse groups be integral parts of the community of the United States without surrendering their heritage? What does it mean to be a citizen in the fullest sense of the word? How do we balance the rights of individuals with the needs of the state? It is said that our nation's beauty and strength spring like the beauty and strength of a mosaic from the union of its thousands of diverse pieces. This legacy has been passed from ancient Rome to modern America. It is something of which we can all be proud.